right, so let's bring in our buddy Pat Smith. It was probably easy to distinguish some of the people there, some of the coaches and players. You heard Brian Kelly's voice. It wasn't a Cajun accent. You heard Sam Pittman. Fernando Carmona Jr. was the player talking about my coach deserves to win. But, Pat, how about the emotions from Hugh Freeze in the cut that we played? I mean, he was – that seemed real. That seemed authentic. Maybe this is going to be something that people really tune into this fall. I kind of like that.
Good morning, Ty. Always good to be with you. Listen, I would be crying too if I was Hugh Freeze based on the fact that he went 5-7 last year.
There we go.
Listen, no. I mean, the emotion is real for Hugh Freeze, but I'm here to tell you, I mean, obviously I cover him every single day, and the proof's going to be in the pudding this year. Enough of the excuses. Auburn fans are expecting a big year for him, and granted, we think he loves the players. That's great. That's fine, but you were brought in to win football games at Auburn University, and he is really banking on a big season this year. This is either going to be one of the greatest seasons in the history of Auburn football, or it's going to go down just like the previous four, which is an underachieving club, than which the university probably will then be looking elsewhere to try to find a new head coach. So it kind of goes down to that. As I said, I'm not taking a shot at Hugh Freeze saying that was fake emotion, because he is a very emotional head coach, and people love that about Hugh Freeze. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because unless those tears turn into wins, he's got bigger problems and bigger fish to fry if he loses to Baylor in week 1.
You know, I love Pat for a number of reasons. Pat's the co-host of Three Man Front in Birmingham at WJOX, and he's also the assistant program director there. Pat just gets right to it. He cuts through the nonsense and tells you like it is. Pat, Auburn has fired coaches after Arkansas losses. Gene Chizik,
yeah.
Brian Harsin. I mean, is it a situation where if they come to Fayetteville and lose that Auburn's looking at a new head coach?
Well, it's a situation with Hugh this year. The first 5 games, just like last year. Last year, Auburn fans were saying, okay, we've got 5 home games, okay? Worst case scenario, we're going to go 4-1. Well, they went worse than that last year, okay? They start the season in Waco, Texas, and they feel really good about their first 5 games. Once again, those first 5 games are going to determine what the rest of the season potentially is going to look like. Just want to remind everybody, I know it's not, let me dive into contract season of these coaches and what the buyouts are, but unlike what Kalen DeBoer is at Alabama, which is at $60 million plus,
wow,
or Brian Kelly, which is around $60 million at LSU, you know, it's gonna give a lot of people heartburn to get rid of those 2 guys if they're not happy with the way the season went this year. But the way Auburn set it up after the Brian Harsin fiasco, it is very manageable. It's around low 20s for Hugh Freeze, and it's a situation where they would not have to pay Hugh Freeze immediately or the first 30 days like they had Gus Malzahn or Brian Harsin. They did it right this time. The way they set this up, and Hugh Freeze was so desperate to get back into the Southeastern Conference that he would agree to anything to get back to the South. He did that, but now in year 3, he's staring down the barrel of a gun in regards to the way that he needs to perform. If this team does not get 7, 8, or even 9 wins this year, based on the fact that you got Georgia and Alabama both at Jordan-Hare Stadium this year, this could be a serious conversation we're having maybe at the end of the year. I don't think the wheels are going to fall off on this team, Ty. So to answer your question with a long answer, I don't think he gets fired if he loses at Arkansas. But the proof will be in the pudding at the end of the year with how many wins he actually has.
Pat, we do a What's Your Beef Wednesday segment brought to you by Richard's Country Meat Market. I think one of the beefs that I have is I used to have a Netflix account via my friend Colton, and Netflix decided to take mine and so many others away that aren't actually living in the household. And so I have not watched any Given Saturday yet. I'm going to eventually do so. But one of the things I'm sure you've taken it at least a little, and Cole watched an episode last night. One of the funniest things we talking about, you mentioned Brian Kelly. Kelly's wearing a college football playoff LSU pullover. They have not been to the college football playoff when he's been in Baton Rouge, man.
Yeah, well, there's also interesting because I've seen 3 episodes, and again, I'm going through it pretty quickly because I'm just going to be honest with you. When you don't have Alabama allowing cameras behind the scenes, Auburn, obviously the kind of season they had, they're going to be featured very little. Texas not in it, Georgia not in it, Oklahoma's not in it. So let's just be honest. Unless you're an LSU, South Carolina, or Vanderbilt fan, the listening or the people that's going to be streaming in my neck of the woods, it's going to be very small because nobody wants to relive Diego Pavia beating both Alabama and Auburn last year. So not a lot of people are going to be watching. But what I did find interesting is how Brian Kelly tells the story about how his dad last year, to Brian Kelly's face, predicted that Ole Miss was going to go to the college football playoff. So that made for an interesting anecdote. So I think it's very well done, Ty. Needless to say, you've got all the likes of SEC Mike. He has featured a great deal in it. Paul Feinbaum, he's featured in it. Andy Staples, those type people. But it was very well done. But from a perspective of not having your big brands be a part of this and those others not have the type of season that maybe you were rolling the dice on, I think people are going to walk away going, you know what, it was good, but it was not one of those things that you're going to say, man, this is like Hard Knocks from about 10 years ago.
It could have been better. Like you said, it always helps when everyone's included in being that the ones that you listed aren't. It's hard to say it fully maxed out what it could have been. Pat Smith's our guest, co-host of Three Man Front on WJOX in Birmingham. You bring up Vandy, you bring up Diego Pavia, who is just popping off this offseason. I don't think I've ever seen a Vanderbilt, like, Cutler was really good and obviously had a career in the National Football League. I don't know how many other Vandy players we think of in SEC football the last few decades, but here's a kid that has dropped the F-bomb about Tennessee, talked about Alabama. Like, he realizes he is playing football in Nashville and not in Tuscaloosa, not in Columbus, not in Ann Arbor, not in Athens. Like, not to say that Vanderbilt's a bad team by any means, because they went toe-to-toe with Texas. They beat Alabama. They beat Auburn, as you referred to. But I don't know, Pat, if he knows the can of worms he's opening up heading into 2025.
Well, one thing's for sure. I mean, I can just speak for the team, one of the teams that I cover on a daily basis, and that's the University of Alabama. There's obviously two quarterbacks that is in their bullseye. And let me tell you something. This defense for Alabama, 7 returning starters. If you go look at Pro Football Focus and other breakdowns around the college football world, they're going to tell you that Alabama is going to be a very potentially special defense this year, and that would be huge for their success potentially. They've circled 2 quarterbacks on that schedule. Tommy Castellanos in week number 1, in which they've got to go to Doak Campbell because he opened up his trap and talked about, Nick Saban no longer being in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama's not Alabama anymore. So even the defenders at SEC Media Days were very quick to point out that those comments, are absolutely something that they're going to take care of in Tallahassee. And then also Diego Pavia. I mean, listen, Alabama played one of their worst games of the year last year. They should have never been in that situation, and Pavia took care of business. But he's coming to Tuscaloosa, a little bit different animal than playing in front of about 32,000 people in a construction zone there in Nashville, Tennessee. So we'll see if he's able to back up his bravado. I did like the cut he had about a week ago, Ty, and I know you would appreciate that, when they were talking about his backup quarterback at Vanderbilt, saying that he's had a great offseason because his backup quarterback gave up women. And so he has absolutely refocused himself on the Vanderbilt Commodores as opposed to, I guess, running out and enjoying life on Broadway.
Oh, man. Oh, geez Louise. We're talking with Pat Smith, again, WJOX three-man front co-host in Birmingham. Pat, I'm going to play this cut for you from Nick Perry, who was on Alabama, played for Coach Saban like you were talking about. He is Arkansas's newest cornerbacks coach. He was talking about the 2010 game where Bama came to Fayetteville.
That might be the loudest the stadium's ever been, certainly ranked among that. What do you recall from the 2010 game?
Pig suey.
I just got cracked up at that. Do you remember anything about Nick when he was playing in Tuscaloosa?
I mean, he was one of those solid players. I mean, maybe not given like the marquee of a Marlon Humphrey and people like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But just a solid piece. I mean, he was an individual that Alabama just was able to just stack like cordwood. You know what I'm saying? In regards to recruiting, it was just like. The mode in Tuscaloosa during those years under Nick Saban was, okay, you got a 5-star that goes out. Well, guess what? It's the next freak up. The next guy on the depth chart was going to be a 5-star potentially or a high 4-star, that kind of thing. And, I mean, there's no question. I mean, what Nick Saban was able to do with that roster, including Nick, was impressive. But, yeah, maybe did not get the kind of limelight that probably deserved. But, man, solid player for Alabama. Very good indeed in Tuscaloosa.
So Nick Saban, Pat, has been on the record saying he's not coming back to college football. Who is not coming back to their current SEC school heading into 2026? Who gets let go in the offseason or midseason, in your opinion?
Well, it's very interesting because obviously you've got boots on the ground there in Fayetteville, and I trust you inherently in regards to what's going on there. And based on our conversations in Atlanta, I mean, you feel like that unless the wheels completely come off big time, that maybe Pittman's going to be okay. So he would not be on my list. Mark Stoops' buyout at Kentucky is pretty large. And are you going to go ahead and spend all that money to get rid of Mark Stoops? And then who are you going to bring in? You're going to have to go pay, everything but the kitchen sink to get John Sumrall from Tulane, a former Kentucky guy. You're going to bring him in, and all of a sudden you're talking about way uncomfortable money for Kentucky to do all that. So then you have to, mark him off the list. Billy Napier. What's going on with Lagway? I mean, that's the big question mark. Then you got Hugh Freeze in Auburn. Is he going to be able to take that next step? So there's a lot of guys, to me, that's on that proverbial warm seat, maybe not exactly the hot seat. I think a lot would probably have to happen for even Brian Kelly, even if he doesn't make the college football playoff. I think the team would have to pretty much implode for those guys down the bayou to get the money up to get rid of him and move forward. So I don't know. It might be just pretty much status quo.
Back-to-back years, potentially, Pat, of no SEC coaches.
Yeah, and I think it all has to do with the athletic departments now, Ty. I mean, these coaches have got them over the barrel with these buyouts, and because of revenue sharing and NIL, transfer portal, and everything else. I mean, I saw where Matt Campbell at Iowa State, he agreed to a new contract couple days ago, and in his contract, you're talking about a guy that was always number one on everybody's list in regards to if there was a job opening. He's making $5 million a year. There's not a SEC head coach. Heck, even Clark Lee probably makes more than Matt Campbell at Iowa State, but he took less because he wanted more money to be able to go spend on players and to take care of his assistant coaches. So that's why I think it's going to be very difficult for some of these schools like a Kentucky to be able to get rid of their coach with a pretty hefty buyout and then have to go and kind of reset everything with a new coaching staff.
I was reading a story, Pat, as we let you go here. I think Brock Purdy years ago had to convince him to stay. He was thinking about taking the USC job or something like that, and there's a cool backstory on Purdy convincing him to stay in Ames, Iowa. Pat, always good stuff. Pat Smith, co-host of Three Man Front in Birmingham on WJOX. Pat, I know you got to run because you got your show coming up, so we appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to spend with us.
Hey, and by the way, can I bring a bottled water into Lincoln Field? Do I have to pay the $7 for water?
Sneak it in, man. or to Fayetteville. Jeez.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Ty. Good talk to you.
All right, good stuff from Pat Smith as always.